So I just want you to clarify and speak on that because I was able to pick up on the message, but a lot of people weren't. So, and people
Well,
are asking me.
look, when Larry first got locked up and went to prison in 73, he denounced the gangster disciples way back then. And we know if the masters is observing, you have to come out of a situation and see the same thing you seen going in. That's how you know that it's up. Mm-hmm. So the statement that he put out renouncing gangster disciples is nothing new to us in growth and development. Growth and development is a graduated ideology from gangster disciple community terrorists trained by the government to terrorize our own people to wait a minute, something going on. We ain't gang banging no more. We brain banging now. Mm-hmm. He been told these motherfuckers he's not a gangster disciple, and he advocates growth and development. Mm-hmm. Right? And the growth and development is predicated upon the principles of self-knowledge and self-development by erudition and self-learning. Right? So we don't advocate anybody terrorizing our communities because the first chance we get, we finna snuff that shit out. Mm-hmm. They was never organized in the beginning to be community terrorists. They was originally organized to protect the community against the tyranny of the motherfuckers with the badge. This who was terrorizing the community that caused the cohesion among the youth the government turned them into gangs through infiltration. Right? We got verification of that during the so-called Rodney King riots. Mm-hmm. When they called the peace treaty between the Bloods and the Crips, and then the police come through dressed like Bloods shooting up the Crips set, and the Bloods set they crying is in the motherfucking party. So they tell the Crips, y'all fall back. They false flagging. We finna find out who they is, lit that motherfucking car up, and there was 4 people in the car. It was 2 of them was FBI agents, and 2 of them was from the Rampart Crash division of gang task force. They need us to fight each other.
You got a question. Somebody's asking what's going on with the laws in Chicago.
They trying to make them motherfuckers bump straight. See, what they would do in Chicago that make them change the law on the bonds is this. You got a 21-year-old dude that the police can't get off the streets, right? And they catch him with a pistol. The pistol got a 25-year-old murder on it. He in possession of the pistol. They charge him with the murder, and they know it's no way possible that he could have committed the murder because he wasn't born yet. Mm-hmm. But they would hold him without a bond and give him court continuances as long as they could. According to his knowledge of the law, his lawyer is always part of it. So now we saying no because the Constitution guarantee you a reasonable bond. They never honored that shit. Now, since you don't want to honor it, we'll give everybody a fucking personal bond in. Right? But it's not as simple and clear cut as people making it say, like, I'm going to go out and commit a second-degree murder, they're going to give me a personal bond, I'll be out in the morning. That might happen the first time, but do it again. It won't happen again. See, these laws are all designed to be to our detriment. Any law they pass is not to benefit us.
Facts.
They never passed any law with the organic people of the land in mind. They never did that. If they did, it was only a way to subjugate us. Mm-hmm. As when the Supreme Court ruled way back in the early days that we would never be part of this country and we would always be perpetual enemy combatants. That's an old-ass law, an old-ass Supreme Court ruling that's never been rescinded. And they got a doctrine in law called stare decisis, right? And it means a direct look. If it haven't been overturned, it's still in effect. Dred Scott's still in effect. If you 3/5 compromise, you are imbecile in law and have no rights that a free white person is bound to respect. The only thing there is that you don't even know what a free white person is. A Moor. Mm-hmm. It's right in the Black's Law Dictionary as a category of Moor, free white person. So when we thinking that they talking about pale-skinned people, the white man ain't even white. That nigga blacker than me and you. But it's a term that indicates nobility. We fought back. We never stopped fighting. We never signed a treaty. We just had to change the strategy of the fight because it was decimating both sides to annihilation. Right? We know at the close of the age, we can get them off the planet. But we have to survive long enough to do that.
Right.
So that's what made us accept the Conjure War, which put us all in amnesia. We gods with amnesia. We walking around with dementia, don't even know
it. You got another question. Do you think Russia will evade the U.S. invade?
Yeah, they said evade is more like it because they're not finna come over here doing shit. Donald Trump, look, Donald Trump and motherfucking Putin gonna have crumpets together and laugh about this shit in a couple more months.
Okay, I'm already here. I'm definitely.
Look, all that shit about China about to invade, Russia about to invade, that's called creating the boogeyman. Straight out of 48 Laws of Power. You got to create a motherfucker for y'all to be scared of so that y'all can run to these coward motherfuckers for protection.
Yeah.
Russia said, about much thinking about us as we thinking about going over there shitting in Putin's bathroom.
Right. Ain't thinking about it at all.
I didn't see that movie, nope.
You didn't? I want to say I can personally give my little thing about it. I really honestly feel like they tried to jade it a little bit only because it's Jordan Peele's film and with him coming out with Get Out and all that stuff. You know, now he has to kind of commercialize his movies now at this point. So I feel like he was dropping jewels about the as far as the clouds and that being, you know, what they're using to shield the actual what's going on above us. Mm-hmm. However, I think that they had to try to change it into something kind of scary, like, if that makes sense, so that it can kind of throw us off. So it did drop a lot of jewels, but at the same time, I feel like they kind of changed it up a little bit so that it didn't drop too many jewels because he was able to drop a lot of jewels with Get Out. And they tend to do that a lot. So and it's up to the director and things like that. But they said, here's a question for you, Rod.
Is that war coming for us with people knocking on door at FEMA camps? Stop falling for the fear campaign. Mm-hmm. We got elders from the land, organic to the land, that's not taking sides with these bitches that FEMA is going to be ran by. The fear campaign is what they was trying to do when we took FEMA over. All of that shit, when you seen the guy's stones blow up, that was the elders.
Because they're all governing one type of birth defect or another that they were assigned to clean up. Now go to the story. As a matter of fact, y'all revisit the comments in here because I'm going to put the story in there and it's going to go over all of this stuff with Solomon questioning the demons. But you're going to find that in every one of them, they are what you call either restricted or complicated by an angel. This is your so-called fallen angels. They're not fallen. They didn't fall. This is what you're not understanding. They came to clean up behind those rogue ruler gods. Now, when we cleaned it up genetically, we are giving everybody on earth the right to choose ascension or not to ascend. You can't take that right once everybody has that God gene, that golden light is turned on. So then they say that that the sun is the light of the world, and they making that in reference to the Christ, because when that love energy of the Queen of Heaven and Earth get close enough, All of the people that's not right they're gonna short circuit. It's gonna be too overwhelming. It can't exist at the same place at the same time. It's just a basic law of physics. The corruption in what you call in science, the entropy, the discord, the chaos, it cannot exist in the presence of the divine love of the Queen of Heaven and Earth. And we are restricted, men, from fully realizing the love in its totality until we prove ourselves worthy. And that's why it said each must show himself approved of the glory of the Lord. This is all they talking about. You gonna say you a man, and you're gonna say you a righteous man, and you're gonna walk away and leave a woman to tend to your seed and not feel anything for it. That's not righteous. And so when you look at the crucifixion and you analyze what's taking place, so they take this, what they call the Christ or the Son of Man, and they go to nail him on this cross. Now, what is the cross? The word cross comes from the word crux. The crux meaning at the point or the center of something. And they call this the crucifixion. So that tells me the word fiction means false or story, false story, a story that's not rooted in the truth. So if the crux of the story is rooted in something that's not true, what's not true? What's wrong with the story to make us not see it? Okay, so look at the story. They're telling you the story about a man that was crucified on the cross, as they call him the Son of Man, which is a mockery term because he's actually the son of the mother. And they call him the Son of Man like a slap in the face, like kids in the playground say, ha, 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 you ain't got no daddy. Yeah, like that. That's the Son of Man title is that. Nah, 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 you ain't got no daddy. And so me, telling them, so, my mama whoop your daddy ass. How you like that? Now they all got attitude. Because they can't do nothing about it. And so at the point where the judgment is being rendered is in the book of Daniel. When you see Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that is Anu, Enki, and Leo. Now they can change the name if they don't change the story. They can change the story in part as long as they leave the key points and as long as they don't change the name. Now the word Daniel means the judgment of El or the judgment of God. So when Nebuchadnezzar has this dream and he translated, you see Daniel telling him what the dream means, that he was going to suffer a judgment. Now this is Daniel. And because of whatever it is that he did to the Israelites, this is the 12-strand DNA, but it wasn't him. You gotta keep that in mind. Nebuchadnezzar, or what they call in Egypt, Thoth, the chief scientist, as his incarnation at that time, he was a different being with a different name. Anyway, they accuse him of being the one who created the genetic suit falsely. Falsely, you gotta remember that. So that's why you see in the New Testament when he say, I am not of your father. Your father was a liar from the beginning, and there is no truth in him. Who is he talking about? He's talking about Enlil. He's talking about Yahweh, Jehovah. Enlil is a warrior, and he used every aspect of war, good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. He only wants effectiveness. He wants to be effective in his conquest as a ruler god. He wants to be the greatest. He is ambitious. And so he will use the good and the bad. That's why it say, I am the Lord thy God. I create good and I create evil. This is Enlil talking. Because he's telling you from a military standpoint, I will just as soon sign a peace treaty with your ass as blow your ass up. It doesn't matter to me. I will just as soon sign a peace treaty as blow your ass up. It doesn't matter to me. Enlil, this is who's telling you this. Now, Enki, who you hardly ever hear of, When you hear about the gods talking in the Old Testament, you hardly ever hear Enki, and you hardly ever see the queen talking in the Old Testament. The Queen of Heaven and Earth does not even really speak up into the New Testament, because everything that she was telling them during the judgment, they systematically remove her half so that they can tell their story. And so they only allow you to have the part relevant to the end game of the final judgment. And so the transgression is this. So Solomon is commissioning the construction of the temple. What are you talking about? Well, the temple is the temple of man, meaning that these physical forms that's been stripped down from a 12-strand DNA under Isis and Ra as the El, or the gods Isis and Ra. So you got your Israel, your Isis, your Ra, and your El. El is what they call Hebrew term, but it's not really Hebrew. It's actually a ayah in Egypt, but it becomes Al in Arabic and El in Hebrew. It's ayah. So when they say Israel, they are telling you that the original 12 strands was under the domain and the rule of Isis and Ra, or wisdom and eternal life. So that's your tree of eternal life and your tree of wisdom, and you get to Genesis. And so what ended up happening is the Kadmon, because Enlil got hasty, wanted to allow him to reproduce, they crossed out Lilith because she wasn't going to put up with their bullshit and they couldn't do nothing about it, and she'd have whooped their ass. So they used deception. Now remember, Enlil used whatever it take to win. It don't matter. If it's going to win, that's what he going to use. There's only one person that he not going to fuck with. And y'all looking at him. They don't want to mess with him. And so Enlil knew when he was laying that bullshit down what was about to happen. And this is your Zidra Sudra story. Your Noah being the child of Enlil. Because Noah is Enlil's son, and his father couldn't believe that Enlil did that. But anyway, everybody think that it's Enki's son. It's not, because he wanted Noah to spread the silver light only. And so when he created Noah, now Farrakhan did a series of lecture called Giving Birth to a God. If he really knew how to give birth to a God, he would know the difference. You can give birth to a creator God or a ruler God. Or you can give birth to a creative ruler God who can use art and science to create and rule, which is a whole nother, which is your Pied Piper story, which I get to. I don't know if it's going to tie in later. But Enlil gave the order. He gave birth to Noah. So in the flood at that time, that flood didn't encompass the globe. That flood didn't encompass the globe. Had nothing to do with a global flood. This flood only covered parts of Babylon in the Middle East, because this is where everybody thought that the Kadmon was. So when they discovered the trail that they took through Turkey, now notice what they keep telling you, that the ark landed on Mount Ararat in northern Turkey, because they're telling you the trail that was taken by Ea up the rope. That's why they call it the rope. Everybody think it's because they hedged them in with the mountain range that they call it the rope. No, they call it the rope is because it was that they called the ascent of the mountains. They had to climb the mountains, and some of the mountain climbers, in order to get rid of some of the babies, used ropes, and they used this as they marched. And you hear about Dr. Richard King talk about the Grimaldi going into Europe, in the area of France. Well, the Grimaldi were what we call albinos, but they carried the gold and the silver light. They actually have two types of albino. You got one of them that is a melanin deficient albino. That's a true albino. Then you have one that's not. This is not really an albino. The one that's not melanin deficient is not really an albino. I call it a moon child. Now, the moon child is very powerful. Now, these are your Irish and your Scottish peoples. They are not black and they are not white. And this is why they refer to as Europe's redhead stepchild. they came down through the DNA chain under the order of the Most High to assist Solomon in the cleanup. And this is how they end up chasing. They've been looking for her, the redhead princesses who they've been looking for, because they knew that the redhead princess was going to give birth to the one that would come and clean this shit up at the end and tell everybody what it was all about. So Alexander rising up also he was a half son of Enlil. It's why he was so influential and charismatic, and why he was homosexual, because Enlil cannot stand the creator gods. He became a homosexual in order to smite them and spite them. He created homosexuality. And the reason why nobody